Hi, my name is Umberto Mucci and this is We the ItaliaNews, a podcast about Italy during coronavirus times. Today is Thursday, September 2, 2021, and this is the first video of our third season. As of today, 61.1% of the Italian population is fully vaccinated. Considering only the over 12s targeted by the vaccination campaign, 70.5% of the Italians are fully vaccinated, in line with the European average. Regarding the doses administered in relation to the population, the regions with the highest rates are Molise, Lombardy, Puglia, Abruzzo and Lazio. Those with the lower rates instead are Sicily, Calabria, Trentino Alto Adige, Valle d'Aosta and Campania. Regarding vaccinations by age group, 92.4% of the Italians older than 80 years old are fully vaccinated. The percentage goes down to 84% for those in their 70s, to 76.7% for those in their 60s, to 70.3% for those in their 50s, 60.5% for those in their 40s, 54.3% for those in the 30s, 55.4% in their 20s, and 26.1% for those between 12 and 19 years old. Italy is 20th in the world and 7th in the European Union for doses administered as a percentage of the population. At this rate, we should reach the government's target of vaccinating 80% of the vaccine-eligible population on September 25, 2021, in line with the government's forecast of late September. The number of Italians who have died from COVID to date is 129,221. The summer tourist season was saved thanks to the vaccination campaign. The percentage of hospitalization is much lower than the same number of cases of previous waves. It is about half. But there are important regional differences. For instance, both are very popular tourist destinations, but Sicily has the highest proportion of over 50 unvaccinated, while Puglia the lowest, and the difference is seen. We will see if the reopening of schools will change something from the point of view of contagions. What worries most now is that we have to face the arrival of autumn season that makes the temperature drop, and then it is more hard to stay outdoors. The likely decline in vaccine coverage over time, the hypothesis of new variants more resistant to the vaccine, but it is very unlikely that we will see closures like those we have seen in the past. And, speaking of contagion, the first Italian region to leave the white zone, the one with fewer restrictions, to go to the yellow zone where there are some small restrictions such as the obligation to wear a mask even outdoors, is Sicily, where four municipalities are even in the orange zone, then with even greater restrictions. And according to the numbers, if the trend were to continue in the direction and with the speed of today, Sardinia and Calabria are the regions that risk to reach Sicily in the yellow zone, even if not immediately. Teachers and staff in Italy's schools and universities, as well as college students, are now obliged to have the COVID Green Pass under new rules that have come into force on September 1st. The scope of Italy's Green Pass, a certificate showing that people have been vaccinated, tested negative or recovered from COVID-19, the equivalent of the American white cards issued by US CDC, has been expanded to the education and transport sectors. The government has warned there will be penalties for school and university employees who fail to comply with the new rules, similar to the system already in place for doctors and nurses. Unvaccinated employees can enter school or university property, but only if they undergo a COVID test every 48 hours. Students, however, are not required to have the Green Pass, which in any case does not apply to children aged under 12. A more contentious aspect of the new green rules, also taking effect from September 1, concerns transport. The pass is now required to board in the city and high-speed trains, as well as domestic flights, long-distance buses and interregional ferries. The Green Pass will not be mandatory for local public transport networks or for regional trains. As for August 6, the pass is required to dine indoors in the restaurants, as well as for access to a range of cultural and leisure activities, from theaters and cinemas to swimming pools and gyms. The new rules have prompted no Green Pass and no Vax protesters to organize demonstrations planned in train stations across Italy. Unfortunately, some of these protesters also got very violent and beat up and heavily threatened journalists and doctors and politicians who are in favor of the vaccination campaign. The European Union dropped the US from its safe travel list due to rising COVID-19 infections there, driven by the Delta variant of the virus, Following that, on Tuesday, Italy announced that it has tightened its entry requirements for travelers arriving from the US. All of them, regardless of their vaccination status, must take a molecular or rapid antigen COVID-19 test and receive a negative result within 72 hours before arrival in Italy. Children under 6 are exempt from this requirement. Also, all travelers must complete a digital passenger location form to be used by public health authorities to streamline the contact tracing process in case the traveler is exposed to COVID-19 during their trip. But most important, unvaccinated travelers must quarantine for 5 days after they arrive in Italy. At the end of the period, they must be tested for COVID-19 again. Data analysis show that the 7-day average of COVID-19 cases in the US now stands at around 467 per million people. Italy's rate is 107. In the second quarter of 2021, Italy's gross domestic product increased 2.7% from the previous quarter and 17.3% against the second quarter of 2020. Of course, the figure of 17.3% must be considered in the context of 2020, where GDP collapsed due to the lockdown. However, it is still the highest on a trend basis ever recorded since these trends have been counted, i.e. since 1995. After a sporting summer of great success for Italy, from the victory at the European Championships to the many important medals at the Olympic Games in Tokyo, in these days are taking place always in Tokyo the Paralympics, and also this time Italy is doing very, very well. There are still 4 days to go and we have already won 20 more medals than in 2016. Right now in Tokyo we have won 58 medals, 13 golds, 25 silvers and 20 bronze. Italy is 9th in the Paralympic rankings. It is a really, really beautiful summer for Italian sport. It's all for today. Thank you very much for listening and watching once again with Italian News. Please spread the word and follow us on our platforms on social media. I'll see you next Monday. My name is Umberto Mucci. This was We the Italian News. Ciao from Rome.